Wait. Hello. Yes, an exciting Wednesday is upon us, everyone, because as you can see, I'm joined by none other than Scrimba student turned Scrimba teacher, Tom. Wow. Hello, Tom. Very exciting to have you here. Yes. In case you don't know, Tom has a very special story, actually. Tom signed up for Scrimba's front-end developer career path and probably never imagined, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, that one day he would actually be teaching it. Yeah. So now, less than 2 years on, I made that time frame up, but I think it's roughly accurate. Tom is a Scrimba tutor with a popular career path module to his name, which we will be talking about a bit later. And in this stream, we'll be finding out what Tom was doing before Scrimba, how Tom found Scrimba, his involvement with all things Scrimba community, his Hacktoberfest experience, and of course, that famous career path module. And potentially some interesting gossip about what goes on behind the scenes in Scrimba, which I'm sure you're all here for. But first, a big warm welcome to Tom.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here, Tom, on a Wednesday afternoon. Yes, extremely excited to hear all about your story. Don't forget, everyone, 2 things. The first is that we welcome questions on this chat. So if you have any questions you want to ask to Tom, just drop them there. And I'll do my best to answer them all. And the second thing is, Debjet has reminded me, Debjet often reminds me actually, about our tradition here on Scrimba live streams, which is if you are new here, please put a bunny rabbit into the chat. If you've been before, hit me with that tiger. Woo. Yes. Hello, Leanne. Hello, Tom. In caps lock, says Mohammed. Hello to you. Yes. Woo. Epic 2C, says Michael. I'm not sure what's epic, just generally. But yes. Everything is totally 100% epic. Yes. So, Tom, tell us a little bit about, where shall we start? How long you've been at Scrimba and what you've been up to since joining, and then we'll get into a bit of the history of things, I think.
Right. Okay. Yes. So I joined Scrimba at the beginning of December, really. I think my interview process sort of finished in the first week of December, because I actually started on a 3-week trial, which took me to sometime between Christmas and New Year. So yeah, it was about the beginning of December. And and we basically jumped straight into module 6 of the career path, which is next level JavaScript. And that was a module which I think Per had been really, really keen to rework for a long time. And
here it is.
And there it is. Yeah. So we got stuck into that basically. And the situation was that the project had already been sort of visualized, and Per had actually redone the CSS for it. So when I came in, I basically rewrote the JavaScript from scratch in sort of manageable chunks, breaking them up into scrims, building it up as I went along, and figuring out basically what JavaScript was brand new for the students. What were the points that were going to be confusing? Because that next level JavaScript is quite a tricky stage, because students at that point have already built some pretty cool projects and they know quite a lot of JavaScript. But on the other hand, they're still some way away from the kind of the stuff that when you're a student, perhaps you look on GitHub or something and you see some sort of professional level code and I don't know, that bit can be quite demoralizing. So you're halfway up the ladder, really. So the next level JavaScript was all about introducing the more complicated parts of JavaScript. And so, yeah, it was a really key thing to sort of identify what they were and how much we had to teach, what theory was needed. So yeah, after breaking it up all into sort of bite-sized chunks, then it was all about the asides. So these asides, which are these sort of mini courses within the course, which where we give the theory and a bit of instruction. And then because the Scrimba teaching methodology is all about the students writing all of the code, well, at least all of the JavaScript in this particular module. So after the aside, they can then go back to the project and with a few hints and a few sort of prods and pushes, hopefully create the JavaScript themselves based on what they've just learned. So yeah, that started early December. And the whole process, because it is quite a long course, it's just one project, but I can't actually remember now how long it is, but it's, it will tell us there roughly, won't it? But
yeah, so we got, oh, crikey, around 4.5, but it actually might be more than that because it rounds to the nearest hour.
Yes, so, and I was thinking, actually, I think it might actually be quite a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it took a long time. I mean, recording all of that, and then obviously there's a process of feedback, and some things have to be re-recorded and changed a little bit. And I think it took until the end of February or so, I believe. And so yeah, that was my first few months at Scrimba.
Beautiful. Lots of comments and questions coming into the chat. Where to start? There is this one. Your module is fire, Tom. Yes. Brilliant. And Beth says, loved module 6. Big improvement from the previous. Yes. Brilliant. And lots of tigers in the chat and some bunny rabbits. So that's exciting. Welcome back. Good to have everybody here. And Baba Femi asks for a link to the course. So for those of you who are not familiar, the situation with this is it's our front-end developer career path at Scrimba. And the idea is to teach you everything you will need to become a hireable junior developer. And Tom's module, well, the one that's already released at least, is this module 6 bad boy here. Yes, with at least 4.5 hours, probably more like 6 or 7, of JavaScript fun. Can you tell us a bit about what people actually build in this module, Tom?
Yeah, actually, we didn't mention that, did we? So this is a role-playing game. And the concept of the game is actually quite simple. You've just got 2 characters and 1 button. And when you hit the button, the dice roll. You're going to see it in action. And the dice then represent the attack, which each character makes against the opponent. And when the opponent's health score gets to 0, that's the end of them. And in the finished product, there are 3 monsters attacking the wizard, but the monsters are all quite a bit weaker than the wizard. So the wizard does normally win. It's a little bit biased, to be honest, but you can change that if you prefer to have a bit more aggressive monsters or something. So yeah, it's funny because when you look at it, 1 button, a couple of health scores, a couple of dice, it doesn't look like it would be that complicated, but actually there's loads of stuff going on in there. I mean, there's constructor functions, there's a lot of array methods like map, join, there's arrow functions. There's actually quite a long list of new JavaScript in that module. So, and what you end up with at the end is really, quite a lot of code and quite nicely reusable code. It's sort of trying to get people into the mindset of thinking about reusing bits of code and making it all very functional, basically.
Brilliant. Yes. As Hassier says, 1 button and a lot of functionality. Super cool. Yes. Marta says, I woke up every day at 5 a.m. to do 2 hours before going to work. Love this module. That is
keen. That is keen. If I wake up at 5 a.m., I re-wake up at 7:30 a.m.
Yes.
I don't jump out of bed to study. Maybe I should try that.
Whatever works. Yeah, some people are night owls and some people are morning larks, is it? Morning thing.
Early
Let
bird.
us know in the chat if you study at night or in the morning.
I'm
What
absolutely
combination?
a night owl. I'd rather stay up until 2 a.m. studying than get up 2 hours earlier myself.
Ah, I
Each to their
find,
own.
yeah, I find it easier to study in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 a.m. Incredible. Yeah. So couple of questions coming in about sort of how long it took you to feel confident with code and so on. But first, I think we should talk a little bit about what you were doing pre-Scrimba, Tom. Tell us about that.
Okay. Yes. So, I have a background in English language teaching and also a background in freelance web development, which were kind of happening at the same time. The English teaching for much longer. So, right before I joined Scrimba, I had actually been teaching part-time in a language school until the start of the pandemic. So it was only at that point that I decided to go full point, sort of head on into tech full time. And so before that, a bit of freelancing, well, quite a lot of freelancing actually, mostly, and I had a bit of a niche for myself actually, and that niche was in organizations that were dealing with archaeology and history. And
Oh.
it's a funny thing that when you freelance, I think it's probably quite common that you end up meeting the same group of people. They talk to each other, they recommend you, etc., and you just kind of find yourself working with, just in quite a similar field. And kind of that's where I ended up. So I did quite a lot of that. And it wasn't only that. I would say yes to pretty much any work. You know, when you're a freelancer, you generally don't turn down work unless you're having a particularly busy period. And that's sort of what I was doing while teaching part-time for about the previous 4 to 5 years, sometimes more, sometimes less. And and then throughout that time, I was also studying and keeping my sort of JavaScript study going, because obviously you never stop studying. And I don't know, perhaps in a way, in the early years, you also think you're a bit better than you are. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, and then before that, I had been an English teacher sort of full-time for the previous 10 years or so. So going right back to the, sounds strange to say the early part of the century, but that's what it was.
That does make it sound significantly further away than it actually is. But yeah,
yeah.
I hear what you're saying. So at what point did JavaScript come into this, or coding in general come into this, and how?
That's a good question. I started messing around with websites right back in about, I think it was 2003, although I couldn't be sure about that. HTML and then CSS as it sort of, became more and more relevant. I guess the websites I was making there, which were completely amateur, by the way, this was not professional work. This was just me making stuff for myself. And I had a look at JavaScript in those days, but honestly, I didn't quite like the look of what I saw. And I think I sort of ran away from it. Oh, that just looks too complicated for me. But quite soon after I don't know if it was the birth of WordPress. I'm not quite sure actually how long WordPress has been going on, but when WordPress became quite a big thing, I picked up on that and did some work on that, which involves PHP, which I never really have dealt with professionally, and I wouldn't describe myself as a PHP developer for a second, but I think probably other than the HTML and CSS, PHP was my first real kind of dive into code. And then really got back into the JavaScript much later. I think 2013 or so, 2014 perhaps, I just kind of thought, I bet I could crack this if I tried it properly. And I think in terms of resources, I think in that period of time between sort of 2004, 2005 and 2013, 14, 15, things had changed massively. I'd actually bought a book. I'd planned on learning Java at some point, and I bought a book on learning Java, and I've still got it. And I looked at it recently, and it's absolutely appalling. You know, how they thought that would help anyone learn to code is mind-boggling. But when I sat down and got stuck into the JavaScript, I just found the world had changed, and people had figured out that you need to break things down into bite-sized pieces, and that you need to be able to see the results, and you need to be building something to see the progression. And so I actually really got into it at that point, and took myself on just studying as much as possible, got into the algorithm thing, which, you know, thankfully is not so much part of the recruitment process anymore, but it's kind of fun nonetheless. And yeah, and then ended up, I suppose around going into the pandemic, feeling really pretty confident with my JavaScript. But only in terms of other frameworks, only really knowing a little bit of jQuery, which by that time was well fizzling out, or had fizzled out probably. But I don't know. I mean, people still use it, right? Don't they, in legacy code? You see it occasionally in job adverts, but and it was at that point that I decided that I should learn React, but I didn't really know anything about React. And so, yeah, that was kind of the next step. And that was the step which took me in the direction of Scrimba eventually. I don't know if you want to go into that now, or? Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I sorry?
That leads us nicely to how Tom found Scrimba.
Yeah, I kind of assumed React would be a little bit like jQuery, and that you could probably just whack a bit in your code where it was useful. And I didn't really have a proper concept of a framework or a library at that time, really. And so I did the thing of Googling, you know, learn React, and I found learn React in 5 minutes, and I watched the video, and 5 minutes later, I obviously didn't know any more about React.
It didn't deliver.
No, funnily enough, it's strange, those things that at the end of it, they just don't seem to work. Really funny. But what I did find as I scrolled down YouTube was a much longer course called Learn React for Free, I think. And it was, of course, by Bob Cyril, and there it is. Or that is actually the updated version, because there was it's a fairly new one, isn't it? I think he released that late last year.
A few months ago, or, yeah. Anyway, this is the updated version of the course that Tom took, indeed, which we're all into the chat now.
Right, because that was on YouTube, and I think this course is also on YouTube as part of a Scrimba link up with Free Code Camp.
Yes.
And that was interesting. I mean, I saw I'd done some stuff with Free Code Camp before, done some JavaScript. So I thought, okay, that looks interesting. And it was, I can't remember how long that old course was, but it was substantially more than 5 minutes. I'm thinking it was about 5 hours or 7 hours or something, or maybe even longer.
Yeah.
So I started doing it. And in the first couple of scrims, Bob says, by the way, I'm using this Scrimba editor. You don't have to. Keep watching on YouTube. Do what you want. But if you watch in the Scrimba editor, you can actually press pause, and instantly the code will come to life in an editor in front of you, and you can actually play with my code.
Indeed, you can.
Thought, well, what an intriguing idea. I never even knew that was possible. Because to be honest, I never really liked video learning very much. It was quite rare for me to watch coding videos. I was more a read a blog post kind of person. And then I kind of, it's weird. It's one of those moments when life could have gone completely different directions, because at first I thought, but you know what? I'm signed up to so many things. I get so much spam. You know, I've got old subscriptions to coding courses that I've never touched, blah, blah, blah. Do I really need to put my email address in another box and get all of this stuff? And so I nearly just watched on YouTube, and that might have been the end of it. But in the end, I did sign up, did the free course, really enjoyed it. Amazing course, really good course. And at the end of it, I then signed up. I then subscribed and did the advanced React course. At which point, sometime in that course, you know, obviously it's a tougher course. That's when I sort of thought, you know, my JavaScript, it could be improved, honestly, because I probably, yeah, as I say, maybe had a slightly inflated opinion of my JavaScript. And I realized there was some sort of inconsistencies. Like, it's a strange one, but I was always using inner HTML. I was never using inner text, for example. And it's just little things like that made me think, there's a lot going on here that I'm not too hot on. Why don't I go back right to the beginning of this here career path, which I'm already paying for, right? Because the subscription was one price for the lot. And, it's only going to take me a couple of months. It's going to cost me, what, 60, 70 pounds. And they'll probably do me a lot of good. And so I just took the attitude that if I really, really knew something, like some of the early HTML, I didn't need to make myself sit through every second of it. I probably watched it a little bit faster or skipped some of the challenges or something like that, which is fine. If you're really clear in your head that you don't need it, then you're not going to get anything from it. But to be honest, throughout the career path, even in the early stages, there were little bits that I thought, do you know what? I didn't really know that, or I never quite do that, or I don't do best practice. So it was a really, really good thing to do. And a whole load of stuff in there as well that probably was things that I just, weren't really on my radar, different ways of doing things. So it was quite a big revelation for me and changed my coding a lot. And I think my own personal projects and my sort of professional freelancing work got quite a big lift from that. So it was a very positive experience. And you're right, I never really thought I'd end up teaching on the course, but I did think this is kind of, A, this sounds kind of fun, and B, this is not so different from explaining the English language to speakers of other languages. And I think you've got some experience of that as well, haven't you?
I do, yes. I was also an English teacher.
Yeah,
yes.
And it's not, it's explaining syntax and rules and whatnot in a way, hopefully with sort of interesting materials that they can understand. It's conceptually not so different.
Absolutely. Yes, lovely little story there about our own front-end developer career path and how it helped Tom out. And Noob Programmer is asking, can I purchase only the front-end career path? Not as such, but when you get a subscription on Scrimba, you have unlimited access to all the pro courses, which includes the career path. And if you want to go and look at the other pro courses as well, you can. So it's kind of a win-win. Yes, I hope that clears that one up. Inksock is asking you, Tom, how long did it take you to be confident to start applying for jobs? That's thrown a tiger into the chat. So I guess we could look at this question two ways. Before you started going out there and looking for freelance work, or maybe it came to you, I don't know. And before you started applying for full-time jobs, how did that pan out for you?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky question to answer, actually. I mean, because the freelance thing just kind of gradually happened of its own accord, really, with just, you offer to help somebody out and then somebody says, oh, call Tom, he might be able to help you. And then suddenly it snowballs. So I couldn't really answer in terms of the freelance, but for myself, but my advice would be on whether it's freelancing or applying for jobs is basically to go for it with, the slight sort of only hesitation being if someone who doesn't really know what they're doing is employing you to do sort of security critical stuff, then obviously you need to be really, really sensible. But in the front-end world, and a lot of people that contact you for small freelance jobs, it's CSS. CSS is, they're nearly always having layout problems or responsive design problems or something like that. It's such a common thing. And for that, whatever you do, no one's going to get hurt. Jump in, have a go. You're probably going to be able to do it. And likewise, applying for jobs, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. And I think Alex put in a tweet a while back, quite a nice sort of metaphor, I suppose, or not really a metaphor, but he sort of said, if you're queuing up at a coffee shop and you can't decide whether to get an espresso or a flat white, and then you decide on the espresso, well, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the flat white, and it doesn't mean that other people aren't going to like the flat white. So, you know, so you get rejected. So what? But I think in the early stages, the important thing is to get something from it. You know, it does take most people some attempts to get a job. So get what you can, get the interview experience, get the take-home challenge experience, the technical test experience if you get that far. Maybe even before you apply, get on LinkedIn and try and network with the person, and just, you know, build up a relationship with them, which might pay dividends in the future. Just see everything as an opportunity, really. But the actual question was, how long did it take you to get? Probably, I'm not even clear in my own head when I decided that I was going to stop being a freelancer and start being a full-time developer. And I actually only applied for a small handful of actual developer jobs before the Scrimba job came up, which made me think, hey, I could maybe do that. So it's a really hard question to answer, but at any rate, now I think if you feel like you're ready to ask the question, then you're ready to start.
Yeah. And as you say, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Just give it a go.
Yeah. And some of the interview, you know, I mean, I did, before my Scrimba interview, I had an interview for a place which was quite I mean, it wasn't terrible or anything, but it kind of left me with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth about interviews. And so it is worth getting that experience in and just getting used to the fact that some companies are nicer than others, and some interview processes are actually not particularly friendly or helpful, and that's life.
Yeah.
You're also interviewing them, right?
Yeah. No, that's I think if they're not that nice in the interview, have a long, hard think about whether you really want to work for them. Yes. So that's my 2 cents. On the topic of job hunts, Passio is asking, do you have your own portfolio? I'd love to see some of your projects.
I actually, when I started working at Scrimba, I was just I basically taken down my portfolio site and was creating more of a freelance web dev sort of, as in don't give me a job, just hire me for your project kind of site, which is still in the exact half-made state that it was in when I started Scrimba. So the short answer is no, I don't have a portfolio page. I do have some projects, actually. I could probably share I made a murder mystery game aimed at speakers of people who are learning English as a second language. The CSS is a bit dodgy in it, but I think I could probably share that without it being too embarrassing. But I'll have to find it quickly.
No worries. Thank you.
Carry on, and should I drop it in? I'm not sure if I don't think I can put something in the chat on this, right? It doesn't offer me any option to do so. But I can.
You can send it to me on Slack.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Hidden chat. Yes, incoming. That will be extremely cool. Thank you for all the wonderful questions popping into the chat. I will try to ask as many as possible. Oh, wow. This is exciting. Mohammed says, thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey, Tom. Thanks to Leanne and Michael. I now have a subscription and I'm really looking forward to taking your course. Way.
Oh, cool.
Brilliant stuff. That is exciting. Wow. Nicholas has been working on a Pokemon clone for people learning Mandarin. Yeah. That's interesting because I'm not sure if it's still in the career path, but there was a section that used the Pokemon API, and some of the data that it brought in was the names of the Pokemons in different languages. So they're all, different in different languages. So there you go.
Nice idea.
Totally. Yes. While Tom is looking for the...
Oh, I have it.
project. I am fishing out further questions, but I would love it if you posted more questions in the chat, because we love asking questions on these live streams. Super exciting. I am, what do you call it? Waiting with bated breath for the project, I suppose.
There we are. I've sent it's in your inbox.
So it is. Ew. So here we are. Talk us through this, Tom.
Okay, yeah, basically, you are a detective and you have got a choice of detectives there. And this, by the way, was built in React, mostly in React. There's some vanilla JS as well. And it takes quite a long time, actually. It's probably about sort of a 40-minute game or something like that. And it is, as I say, all about learning English. So it starts off with a bit of a vocabulary quiz, and then you meet some characters, and the first character gives you a mission, and then you have to go and speak to the other characters. And every time you speak to a character, you get a challenge. So normally you have to solve a bit of a word puzzle or something like that, and that will give you a clue. And then at the end of the game, you put all of your clues together, and hopefully you guess who the murderer is and why. Perhaps you don't, in which case you fail.
Time to look for another career, not detective. Death in the City. So there you go. That is one of Tom's projects for you to check out. Guillermo is wondering how much time daily you spent learning JavaScript when you were learning it.
Quite a lot, honestly. I think that the first time when I sort of started getting into JavaScript, that was before I knew Scrimba existed. I used to probably do at least a few hours every evening. But I am a bit of a night owl, and something that kind of really made me think you need to stop being an English teacher and start working with JavaScript is the fact that if I had to do something for my day job at the time, for the English teaching, you know, I would just want to get it out of the way really quickly. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this in 20 minutes and then it's done. Whereas if I started on the JavaScript, I might suddenly realize it was 1 a.m. and I really should go to bed. So probably it's hard to quantify, but I would have thought a good couple of hours a night, really most days of the week. And then again, when I was working through the React courses on Scrimba and the Frontend Career Path, likewise, well, we were in the pandemic then, we were in lockdown. I was a little bit busy because the various sort of historical charities and organizations I've been working for, they all needed to update their website with their COVID information, etc. So there were things to be done, but I wasn't massively busy. And I certainly had, again, I would have thought 3 or 4 hours most days, especially right through the first lockdown, where I was studying or creating projects of some kind or something, you know, basically in front of VS Code or Scrimba in some description for multiple hours a day, 3 or 4, I would have thought, sometimes more.
Yes.
So I suppose more is better, but I think probably consistency is the most important thing, isn't it? It's not necessarily healthy to spend 12 hours on a Sunday and then not do anything else the rest of the week. But if that's all you can do, then that's all you can do. And I mean, we spoke to, or we heard a story from Kennedy yesterday in the town hall, who had actually, I thought had learned immensely fast. I can't remember the exact date she gave us, but she seemed to have pretty much whizzed through the career path and learning JavaScript and actually landing her first job in pretty impressive amount of time. Hey, I guess some people are going to learn faster than others. I don't suspect I'm a particularly fast learner. Hopefully I'm not a really slow one either. But.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing from all the stories we've heard from students who've been hired at Scrimba, they're all so different. So really, it doesn't really matter how long it takes, as long as you're making progress. Yes.
That's it. It's about the progress, and it will take you the time it takes you, I suppose, in the end, and probably the time that you spend worrying about how long it's taking you is the only time you're wasting. All of the other time you're probably using quite well. So yeah, probably best not to worry about it too much and just let it be.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you spent several hours in front of Scrimba. Some of them, I happen to know, was doing Scrimba challenges. Now, previously, we used to have something called the Weekly Web Dev Challenge, which was a web dev challenge which happened every week. Now, we have something slightly different, which is challenge weeks. This is the current one. And yeah, you get a daily challenge and win prizes, etc. But Tom, can you tell us how you got involved with the Scrimba challenges and how they kind of helped you?
I really loved. Sorry, sorry, I just didn't catch the.
If they helped you.
Absolutely, no, they did. I really loved doing those challenges, actually. And I mean, they help in lots of ways. I think one of them is purely about having a bit of a deadline and, working towards something. The other is the fact that other people are going to look at your projects and hopefully maybe give you a bit of feedback or at least encouragement. You're going to look at other people's projects, of course. See mostly that other people are in the same boat as you. If you're one of those people, and I am a little bit, that worries that everyone else is probably doing something super amazing, and then you find actually no, we're roughly doing the same thing. That's also really useful to know. But it's also nice just to be part of something, to be part of the community, like people are now in the chat, just having a bit of a laugh with other people and making some comments and. Yeah, it's definitely helpful, and definitely I think any opportunity to write code that other people are going to see is a good opportunity. It's only going to do good for you.
Absolutely. And you can also win some prizes, including Scrimba Pro subscriptions.
Which I did win for,
nice.
I think,
Brilliant.
or something, I think.
Yeah. People are asking where to get your hoodie. Now, you used to be able to win it in the Weekly Web Dev Challenge. No longer. Now, it's available if you get a certain number of karma points over in our Discord server. People are quoting 500. It is not, in fact, 500. No, it's 250. Or at least as far as I know, unless it has gone up. I'm pretty sure it's 250.
Yeah, I actually checked how many karma points I had, and it was disappointing. Like I need 232 more before I can get another hoodie.
Oh, yes. If you're ever wondering how many karma points you have on Scrimba, it's available here. Yeah, fun fact. Oh, I've nearly got a hoodie. That's good. Yes, and so that's how you get these wonderful hoodies. Let's go to some more questions. Whoops, no, I don't want to edit my display name. Alison is asking, I just signed up for the Frontend Career Path, but there is a lot more. There is a lot more. By this, Alison means, where am I? Courses. Come on, Leanne. All courses, here we are. Yes, you can filter by paid. So you get access to all of these when you shell out for the career path. So yes, there you go. Vinith is saying, I've been applying for jobs. What type of technical or coding questions might I expect? Tom, would you like to share some of your experience on that front?
Well, I mean, I suppose the problem is you won't really know unless you ask them and they tell you, or until they appear in front of you. My recent experience, the job I applied for previous to Scrimba, the take-home challenge was actually 100% about HTML and CSS.
Oh, really?
It was quite a complicated layout, and so they gave us basically a Figma card with a mobile and a desktop layout, and you just had to reproduce it. They gave you a couple of images. And afterwards, I realized it was quite a clever challenge, because I'm pretty sure they were trying to separate people who realize that sometimes using CSS grid is better than using Flexbox. And I'm pretty sure, thinking about it afterwards, that's what that challenge was aimed at. And I failed it because I realized that after I'd sent it off, that I'd probably written way too much CSS, and it was actually unnecessary. So apart from that, I mean, I've seen challenges which were much more complicated than that, in terms of the JavaScript, wanting some kind of data visualization, wanting probably somewhere in the middle, just like a functional component in React that does really something quite simple, just, something counting down or updating the DOM in some way or something like that. But, really, I suppose a challenge like that is only going to separate out the people who are really just having a go but don't know anything about it from the people who do. So yeah, I think all sorts. The one thing I'll say that I actually have never come across in a coding interview is the algorithm challenges that I think used to be quite popular. In front-end jobs, they do seem to not be asked very much. In my experience, maybe other people's experience differs. But I think I think it's a pertinent question when you apply for a job to ask what the interview process is like. And obviously they're not going to give you exact detail, but they should probably tell you, will it involve algorithm challenges? Will it be more about design, converting Figma to CSS or what have you? So I suppose the answer is expect everything. Be prepared for everything, but yeah, try and get as much out of them as you can, so you can be best prepared.
Absolutely. Which brings me nicely to my next question, which is, what was the Scrimba application/interview process like?
Yeah, and actually I see in the chat someone's just saying, oh, Pasio Tigraz is saying, you can always tell us what the Scrimba interview questions were. Well, actually,
indeed.
Yeah, the Scrimba interview was actually a very respectful and relaxed process. As I said, previous to that, I had what I thought was a fairly sort of obnoxious experience. But no, for Scrimba, so initially you were invited to submit an example of you teaching something. I went overboard. Instead of just doing a 5-minute scrim or a 10-minute scrim, I think I created a 14 scrim course, which went through a whole project, because I thought, I'm an outsider here. I don't have a name in the industry like Bob Ziroldar's. I'm not a senior developer at a big company. If I'm going to do this, then I might as well go in as hard as I can and just see where I get. So I did that. And then the second round was a take-home challenge. What was quite interesting, and something that I've never been offered before in a job interview, was that Pear was that was by invite only. Pear had to invite you to do that, but people he was inviting, he was actually going to pay. If they didn't go on to get the job, you could invoice him, I think for not inconsiderable few $100s or something. So actually a paid take-home challenge. So I think things like that are big sort of green flags for a company. You show that that's a really sort of people-focused company. So that was a much smaller challenge than the first project I'd sent in. I think that was, my memory is failing me, but I think it was just one scrim involving some React. That's it. It was one scrim involving some React and mapping through some data to produce some components in React. That was it. And then after that, it was an interview with Pear, and that was not a here's a load of really hard questions I'm throwing at you, or algorithm challenges or anything like that. It was much more a conversation. What do you think about Scrimba? You know, how do you see it working? Very much a conversation, not a interrogation by any stretch of the imagination. And likewise with Bob, after that, similar conversation about Scrimba, about teaching and coding in general, and then a trial. So yeah, not anything that was at all sort of scary or heavy, actually. Which I think is good. I don't really understand these companies who want to try and, I don't know, it's as if they're trying to weed out people that might crack under pressure, but I don't think that's the best way of getting a good coding team together. So I don't know. Maybe they know what they're doing, but they always
maybe they do. Yes, no, I agree. And actually, I agree with you on the green flags front as well. If people are nice to you in the interview, they'll probably be nice to work with. Yes. Yeah. David has just told me something I didn't know about Scrimba. And that is because someone else further up in the chat, Mohammed, was asking, what are karma points, please? And David said, if you have an account on Scrimba, you can click this purple heart for an explanation. Did you know this, Tom?
I absolutely did not.
Well, here we are.
Look, there's the hoodie.
How to earn karma points. But the crux of it is you go on our Discord server, you join up, you help people, they give you purple hearts, and eventually you can swap the hearts, oh, it is 250, for a lovely hoodie. Yes. Thank you for telling me about the company I work at, David. That is very interesting. Brilliant.
People can cheat and buy the hoodie, right? Or is that a secret? Have I just let that out of the bag?
No, it's not a secret. I just have to find the link. Spread. One moment.
Spread tea, isn't it?
It's spread something. Chat. Oh, here we are. Yes, this is the UK/Europe one. Coming into the chat. And that's the US one. So you can, in fact, go and buy one. Yeah. And an array of other Scrimba merch.
Yeah.
So there you go. But we keep that on the down low because we don't want to devalue our karma points and cause a massive inflation. Yes, brilliant. Oh, wow, 10 minutes left. Further questions. There is actually quite an interesting one, which I saw earlier. Well, actually, let's start with this one. I hope Tom's working on another Scrimba course, please, says Beth. Tom, what's your answer to that?
Yes, I am. I am currently working on module 4, or what is currently module 4. I think there might have to be a bit of reorganization, which might get confusing if we change module numbers. I don't know if we're going to do that, but module 4 is currently CSS and JavaScript fundamentals.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to still be CSS and JavaScript fundamentals, but it's going to be new. So there's going to be new CSS and new JavaScript. And basically because those parts of the course are fairly old, and now the methodology of Scrimba has moved on, where everything is project-based and the students write all of the target code, at least. You know, maybe they don't write the HTML in a CSS course or what have you, but they will certainly write all of the CSS. And so that's going to be updated with the newer methodology. So there are going to be several smaller JavaScript projects, nothing big like module 6 is. It's going to be 4 or 5. I'm not quite sure yet how many JavaScript projects. And then actually much sooner than that, there will be some new CSS in there. And that links in more with a previous module, which Pear has just made, which is not live yet. So there's going to be a clearer progression. So Pear's module and then the new CSS in module 4 are going to sort of fit together better. So there's more of a logical progression. And likewise, the new JavaScript in Module 4 will be quite a good foundation for people who are then going on to the JavaScript in Module 6. So it will make the career path, not only will it be sort of updated with the methodology, but it will also be, I think, a bit more of a sort of logical progression, because obviously over time, as courses change and new things come up, etc., then you can end up getting things a little bit sort of zigzaggy. So yeah, the first changes will be coming fairly soon there, but I really regret from Module 6 making promises about dates. So soon.
Yes, coming soon. Yes, this question coming in from Mohammed. Does the front-end career path cover anything about taking a design and converting it into a site? Off the top of my head, I don't think actually, now I'm saying that, I do remember some talk of a Figma course from Bob. But anyway, Scrimba, Figma. We do have an entire course about exactly what you're asking for, Mohammed. Here it is. Yes, from Figma to Code with Gary Simon. And yeah, 5 projects, 5 Figma files, and you do exactly that, converting it into a site. Oh, and actually now I'm thinking about it, we also have this one, which is a collab between Scrimba, Frontend Mentor, and none other than Kevin Powell. Yes, where you build a space travel website. We actually have 2 full courses on that. So I hope that helps you out.
And
Brilliant.
actually, the new CSS in Module 4, which is less advanced than the 2 courses you've just seen, by the way, has something along the lines of what Mohammed is talking about. You've got slides with design on, which you're then recreating with CSS. It's, as I say, it's less complex than those courses, so it's yeah, easier. And the designs are not so complex, but yeah, along the same lines, basically.
Yeah, and actually, maybe David should come and work with Scrimba. Technically, all of the solo projects as well are based on here's a graphic design, turn it into a functional app. The solo projects are projects that you build basically without any guidance at all, and they appear in the React Basics course. I think there's now some in the JavaScript course, if I'm not mistaken. They're peppered throughout the career path anyway, exactly as David says. So essentially, yes, we have plenty of opportunities to see designs and turn them into web dev reality, which, as Tom said earlier, is exactly what can happen in the interview.
Absolutely,
so that's good.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yes. Ooh, I need to win a subscription from a coding challenge. Thank you for the reminder. Yes. In case you weren't here earlier, this is our current challenge week we've got going on. Earth Day themed. Yes. We're currently on day 3. Here's the old challenge. You've got some things which are good for the environment and some which are bad. And the idea is you have to render some buttons programmatically, not just by writing the HTML, like this. Yes. And then basically update the user's environment points for the day. So give that a go. You've got a few more hours. And then tomorrow, there'll be a brand new challenge and you can win a free subscription. Yes. And actually many other things. Cash, a 1-to-1 code review with senior developer Michael, who was in the chat earlier. He might still be in the chat. And a lifetime Scrimba Pro subscription you could win. Yes, which is priceless. You actually can't buy that. Yes. Today's challenge was the hardest so far. Ooh, interesting. Thank you for taking part. Let's finish off with one more question, Tom, which was the making of your career path module. Can you tell us a bit about the approach to making something like that? Because it's not a 5-minute job, is it?
No, it's quite a long process. So as I said before, the module 6, I kind of came in when the design and the app had actually already been thought about quite a lot, and I made some changes and did some other things. But with the new stuff for module 4 that I've been doing from scratch, there is quite a lot of work to be done. I mean, we start off really with an idea of what needs to be taught. So literally just a list of, for example, the for each, or I don't know, my mind's suddenly gone blank of all the JavaScript I've just been writing, but yeah, some array methods or what have you that we need to teach. And then we start to think, or I start to think, or no, actually it is quite collective. So with Per and Bob and Gil, we've got a bit of a sort of education side chat going, and we all throw ideas in, which is really, really useful. And then start making some projects basically which use those sort of target bits of JavaScript and kind of see what's left, and just start to think, okay, how can we use this piece of JavaScript in a way that's actually useful, that demonstrates it properly. And then at that point you end up with some projects, and then you need to go through the process of breaking them down into individual steps, figuring out which ones need to be taught with asides, where you need to input some theory and some explanation. And then basically planning out a whole load of scrims, making slides for them as necessary, and then recording, and constantly a sort of a feedback process going on as well, things being changed, ideas changing, and probably doing some inevitably doing some re-recording, and really hoping that you haven't made a silly mistake in the first scrim, which and that is, it's one sort of big drawback really between being a developer and being a teacher and making a course like this, is that something which would be a 20-second debug in the code base, if you actually wanted to correct it and you don't notice in time, where it could involve hours and hours of re-recording. So
Oh no.
yeah, you have to be, I think that's something that I've kind of learned the hard way a couple of times, is that you really, really, really have to focus on what you're doing before you move on to the next part, because then it might be too late.
Oh no. So there you go. That is a little bit about what goes into the making of a Scrimba course. Yes. There is more to it than meets the eye, that is for sure. I did say that was the last question, but then I remembered that there's this all-important question. Is there any interesting behind-the-scenes gossip from Scrimba? What do we get up to when we're not in front of the camera?
Well, a lot goes on at Scrimba. It's a constant hive of activity, and it's sort of 24 hours a day, really, because of the fact that we've got me, you, Michael, Per, Frode, Sindra in Western Europe. We've got Gil and Bob in the States. We've got Roku in Australia, Matthias in the Philippines. So, you know, there's always something going on. You can be at midnight UK time in the Slack channel, and there'll be something going on sometimes. But what happens that people don't know about? Well, we have the drawing game, your drawing game. I think that was your brainchild, wasn't it? To come up on a Friday morning with a drawing challenge, which has to take no more than 10 minutes, no cheating. And then that gets presented at the meeting on Friday. So because we actually only have 1 hour of fixed meetings a week, which is really nice, because I do know some people who have sort of 17 or 20 hours of meetings a week, and it's just crazy, but not
right. Really?
I don't know how they managed to get anything done. So yes, there is a drawing challenge There are sometimes some games as well at the meeting. We do like a bit of the funny snake game that you can play. And what other things? There's a lot of chat and discussion and sort of brainstorming about the career path and improvements and actually the overall sort of Scrimba experience. And that's actually, I mean, quite a lot of people probably think that if you, oh look, there's some.
Yes, these are some of my drawings from the weekly competition. Yeah. Yes, a giraffe and some dogs. Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, people quite often think that when you make some kind of suggestion to a company, they probably just ignore it, or, you know, it never really goes anywhere. But actually people who make comments, make suggestions in Discord or email us or something like that, everything ends up on a big long list, which then once a month we discuss. And it's quite a fruitful process, because if something, you know, is a good idea and it's going to be helpful and it's doable, then it actually gets added to a list of things to be actioned. You know, it might get might get its own place in the GitHub repo, or you know, depending on what it is, whatever is relevant to it. But and then these things become reality bit by bit. Of course, right. It's a process. So yeah, loads happens behind the scenes at Scrimba. But I have to say, I think I don't think I've ever worked anywhere which is so kind of frictionless between people. Actually, everyone at Scrimba is helpful and nice to everyone else, full stop. I've never actually, I've worked in some quite nice places. I haven't always worked in horrible places, but you know, normally there are some difficult personalities, or you know, something that's just a bit uncomfortable. But no, at Scrimba not. It's a very friendly, sort of an easy environment to work in, I think. Yes,
I think so too. We rock. What's a suitable sound for this? Maybe this. Yes. Is anyone from Scrimba team from Poland? Not yet. I don't think I'm saying that. Now I'm doubting myself. No, I don't think there is. Watch this space. We are slowly recruiting from all corners of the globe. Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. Wow. That brings us a little over the hour. Tom, thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you and hear
thank you for having me.
About that journey of yours. If you want more of this, hit the subscribe button below. And don't forget to take part in our challenge week. Yes. And then on Friday, mind blank there, Michael and I, this Michael, will be live right here again, solving some of the Earth Day themed challenges and generally having a laugh and dishing out some prizes live on YouTube. It will be amazing. I am excited for this. And finally, don't forget to let me know who you want to see on the live stream next. Yes, and I will try to make it happen. Yes. Well, that's all for now, but we'll see you again soon. And a big thank you to those who are watching, and a big thank you to Tom for coming along. See you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.